Hello and welcome. My name is Ian Fletcher and I'm sitting here with my colleague Gordon Gilchrist. Welcome, Gordon.
Hi, Ian.
And today we're talking about invoicing and debt collection. Why is this an important subject, Gordon?
Well, Ian, it's very important because over the last 4 years we've seen the accounting profession making more money than we've ever seen before. But over the last 6 months that is definitely changing. For example, we're seeing in the last 2 months alone we've seen 6 days slippage on debtors' days.
That's quite a big amount.
Well, it is actually, and I know we always argue that, oh well, the debtor days are always because there's a couple of large ones, but even so, if across the board we're seeing at 2020 6 days slippage, that's quite a big hit. So that's really why we're now going to have to look at the way that we do our invoicing, the way we do our debt collection. And we were talking earlier and you were saying that you were seeing a number of firms looking at the way they're structured, Ian.
A number of people are restructuring right now, just ahead of the change in the climate, the economic climate. And the first thing that they seem to be doing is disposing of bad clients.
Yes, they are.
And it's the old 80-20 rule, isn't it? 20% of your clients account for 80% of your grief.
Definitely.
And so some of the first sort of action point that people are taking now is getting rid of those non-payers.
Definitely.
Or can't payers or don't payers. Are you seeing that with some of your clients?
I am, and the big debate is, well, how do you get rid of them? You know, do you just bill them out the door? And well, some say it works very well. I might argue that just means they don't pay. So I rather plop down on the side of sending a letter to clients warning them that they're going to have a fee increase. I saw a letter recently that said something like, we've become very sensitive, we've noticed that you've become very sensitive towards our fees, we've just had an internal reorganisation, just to let you know that next year your fees will unfortunately have to rise by, and then you choose a percentage that you think will do the trick, and hopefully the clients get the letter and say, oh well, that's probably more than I want to pay. So in the letter you actually say to them, we think we know 2 excellent firms that will do the work you want for the price that you're willing to pay. So it's a gentle letter, but it points them in the right direction.
And it's probably a good thing to have a gentle letter, isn't it, really? Because clients who are unhappy tend to tell others that they're also unhappy.
Very much. And for those firms that are in smaller communities, the word just spreads like wildfire, and it's just not healthy. If you're in metropolitan areas like London,
not so important.
Not so important. So definitely, if we can, as a first step towards invoicing and debt collection, clear out the bottom of the barrel, the really worst clients, that sets a better foundation for the clients that are left that hopefully will start to pay more frequently.
Well, you've got more time for the better clients if you get rid of the ones that are late, have got messy books, etc.
Oh, absolutely. And a little exercise I did the other day was, if we listed down our top 3 clients by partner, the sort of clients that would take every hour that you ever threw at them, they reckon that they could increase the fees by 60–70% on those clients. And therefore it's really easy for the firms to say, well, why are we wasting our time on little clients that moan all the time? I
think some people just are frightened of getting rid of clients per se. It's just something that we as accountants aren't quite used to doing, is it?
Well, we're not used to it, and I think it goes back to right at the beginning when you set the engagement letter, which is another really important aspect of invoicing and debt collection, is to look at your terms of business.
What are people doing with terms of business? Because I know there's 1 or 2 clients I've worked with have changed the way they send an engagement letter these days.
That's right. Well, we're both seeing this in. The terms of business are now being popped onto the websites.
And people tick the box to say they agree to the terms and conditions on the web.
Exactly, and if we can keep a track on those that tick, then clearly they don't need a printed version. So a lot of costs are now being whittled away, whether the paper, the stampage, the filing, all of that stuff is much more digital. But being accountants, of course, I think that if the clients don't tick it or refuse to tick the website, we'll still print it off. The difference is, rather than what you and I used to refer to as letter of engagement, these terms of business cover all of the services, even though they're not buying them. So, you know, if you sign me up for an audit but not payroll, in the terms of business we'll still have payroll terms of business. In the event that I take on payroll, I then would be bound by that. So if you wanted to change the terms of business, you just change the website. So that is now beginning to streamline, and I think very effective.
Streamlining engagement letters is one of those things that it does take a lot of time to keep having to redo, isn't it? So that's important.
Oh yeah, very much. And then as far as invoicing is concerned, we're seeing more and more firms, typically they would say we charge skill by the hour, fixed fees, but more and more firms are recognizing this notion, I'm sure we'll talk about later, this value pricing notion, where effectively you try and agree a fee with the client that is nothing to do with time, but to do with the benefit, tax saved or corporate finance assignment, success fees. And so we're seeing clients accounting firms introduce within their terms of business that they also reserve the right to agree fees which specifically will not be based on time, but maybe due to expediency, risks, levels of skills involved and things like that.
Event billing by, and also value pricing in some respects. Is that
very much value pricing. It just introduces value pricing as a legally binding document.
So the first couple of things that we're seeing clients doing is, one, getting rid of the bad clients. Two, setting expectations much more clearly in the engagement letter, or even I'm finding that some clients, in addition to the engagement letter, send a letter of expectations, a covering letter saying this is what you can expect, this is what we expect from you.
Absolutely.
And for that we'll do it at this price.
Yes.
And
Completely.
you're finding that as well?
Very much. I'm trying to think of the phraseology, but within the 2020 members toolkit, for example, we have the client education checklist, which shows them, everybody, the sorts of things that we do when we prepare accounts, and then we have a client education checklist for tax returns. So they're the things that we will do, and then of course the other side is in exchange for which you need to provide a trial balance that balances or dividend schedules or whatever.
Because in some of the surveys we've done recently for people, we found that quite a large, significant proportion of clients, even in the better firms, still don't understand what they're paying for with regard to accountancy or audit work, and think their fees are excessive.
100%, Ian. When we do those client surveys that we've become reasonably famous for, one of the most common comments I hear is, I have absolutely no idea what they do down there. I have no idea what my accountant does. These bills arrive and I just don't know what they do. So we really must get the clients to understand what they are paying for.
And be educated in the processes.
That's
and
right.
The steps on that. This is the way it works here for us, for you.
Well, you will recall when you first introduced this whole notion to your clients, when we were meeting some years back, you mentioned the motor industry and how the motor industry suffered with exactly the same problem, where people put their cars in for service, no idea what they were paying for, and lo and behold, the motor industry came up with a checklist of all the things that they did during the car service.
So what we're saying here, Gordon, really is get rid of bad clients and keep your good clients happy. That's the first thing about billing and collection.
And get them to understand
what
they're getting.
what the processes are and what's involved.